Good evening, everyone. Welcome back. We are back again. We've assembled part of the panel, but the rest of the panel will be here very shortly to talk all things top table talk. And it's a pleasure to have these boys, certainly to kick us off on the panel. Adam, Wolfie, how are you this week?
Mate, you don't get to wear sunglasses against Southampton. I'm sorry.
Oh, is that why he's wearing sunglasses?
Nah, you don't get them for Southampton.
You went behind, man. You went behind. You went behind. You can't be that shameless, man. You can't.
Oh, no, they're a sunglassless victory.
There we go. That's better. That's better. Be more humble, mate. Be more humble.
How are you boys anyway? How are things?
I'm good, mate. It's just you lot cheered me up backstage. And...
You might as well tell me.
Can we share it in the chat?
Go for it. Go for it.
You know how I always say how relevant Brighton are? I turned down, I was like, oh yeah, crap, we got you this weekend. And I was like, oh yeah, crap, I'm going to the game. Like, didn't even know it was them, man. That's how irrelevant they are. But yeah, shout out to the Evertonians. Yeah.
So you cannot try and banter this week, mate. After this last week.
Well, where are you in the league? Where am I in the league?
I think people are going to want to start there. Am I right? People are going to want to start.
Oh, you put it on Twitter, and I saw the first comment was, "Oh, Wolfie's getting cooked," or whatever it said. Right? I've been waiting for someone to cook me all week. I don't think there's anyone on the panel who's above me. So go on, the floor is yours. So what you need to say?
The only man that can try and be like not humble after a 5-0 loss to Bournemouth. Amazing.
And this is the thing, and I'm sure you'll agree with it, is that and that Wolfie will give you an opportunity to take the floor and have your say in just a second. But I would be more inclined to just kind of hold off a little bit if it wasn't the defeat that it was.
You're not talking from your perspective.
What?
When you say not that, because you just lose to them 4-1 at home.
Yeah, but
okay, so this should be interesting. I'm all ears.
We got hammered for that. Let's not forget, you had your fun last week. Am I right?
Yeah, go on, have your fun.
Beating Bournemouth is a piece of piss. I'm not sure what you guys ran into.
Nah, not for me and Pete, man. Not for me and Pete. We ain't beat him since 2015. I said we were going to lose this one. This one's done, man. But they're irrelevant. It's all the Bs in the league. The Bournemouths, the Brightons.
Imagine getting beaten by 5-0 by an irrelevant club. That's got to be even worse.
No, they're the best teams to lose to. Right. Because you only get like 2 or 3 people, which is basically their whole fan base, in your comments go, "Oh, we beat you." Like, okay.
It's weird because you don't look like it, but the mental gymnastics you're capable of are genuinely Olympic level.
What am I doing?
It's amazing that you can try and justify a 5-0.
Do you want me to celebrate like this? Would that make you feel better if I did that?
Oh, we're so irrelevant that you know how the opposition celebrated their penalty goal.
Oh, because there's more interest in Everton than there is in Brighton. I saw the Everton goal.
Yeah.
Okay. Ads, talk to us then from your perspective. Watching that game at the Vitality on Saturday, or hearing the result if you didn't manage to watch the game. What were your thoughts on that? And when you've seen, I assume you've seen the highlights of that game at the very least.
They were long lights, mate. They went on for a while.
I mean, as long as they were. How bad did that look to you? Because it looked bad to me. And as Wolfie quite said last week, we were in the
Thank you
as well. So I have to say that
Alliance, Alliance. Let's not forget.
But we scored. But Ads, talk to us, mate. How bad was it?
I mean, it's not like you can have a good 5-0 loss, is it?
There you go.
There's no such thing as like, oh yeah, no, it was 5-0, but it was a close run thing. No, you were battered. It was a 5-course meal level cooking. Like it was a battering. I will say though, this isn't in Forest defense, but maybe you can take it as that.
Go on.
Bournemouth are having a renaissance. They've been a revelation the last few games, and they've been excellent. And Kluivert's been excellent. A few of their players have been amazing. So I don't know how much of the game was Bournemouth's excellence and how much of it was Forest just falling apart completely.
Shitness. Yeah.
But we always talk about this on this show, don't we? About how we don't give enough credit to maybe the less big
smaller. You can say it with them. Smaller
in the league, and so we should give credit to Bournemouth. They were excellent. They have been excellent.
No, I'm not giving them credit. We were terrible.
You're not going to
But
give credit for beating you 5.
So you're not giving
No.
credit to a team that beat you 5-0.
Goals in 2
No.
games. No credit for them. They're rubbish. Yeah.
No, I'm not giving them. I would
Wolf-
never give Bournemouth
Wolfie.
credit. No. If we'd played you and you'd beaten us 5-0, I'll give you credit. I'm not giving it to Bournemouth, man. They don't justify my time, if I'm being
They're
honest.
They're
with you.
4 points off you.
Yeah, what position are they in?
Doesn't matter, does it? They're 4
Okay, it
points
did
away
when
from
you were. It did when you were fourth. It mattered. I remember, mate. Where are you now?
I've lost track.
Hold on. Wolfie, I can't have that. You
I've got history of Bournemouth, man. No.
You've got to give props to Bournemouth.
Yeah.
Bournemouth have beat you 5-0. As you quite rightly reminded me, yes, Rich, welcome in. And Rich, you can come in on this because we're talking the 5-0 hammering at the weekend. Wolfie's not willing to give Bournemouth any sort of credit here.
Surprise, right, Rich?
Yeah.
It's weird. Really out of character.
Well, how's that out of character?
I'm not having it. I'm not
Wait,
having it.
Pete, when you beat us, did I give you credit or not? Let's be level-headed here. Did I give you credit?
You did, but
Thank you.
But they hammered you guys, and you're not giving them credit.
So what? I don't need to give them. Why do I need to give them credit? What's this whole woke football freaking fan base these days where everyone has to applaud
There it
the
goes.
opposition? I don't understand it. I hate Bournemouth, right? Because a gust of wind stopped a game happening when we got promoted. Could have cost us getting promoted. They cheated in that game that got rescheduled, where they bribed the ref. They didn't give Sam Surridge a penalty. They called it as offside. If you look at last season, they cheated again when Willy Bolly got sent off for a second yellow card, which wasn't even a yellow card, right? And you want me to give credit to a team that is known as our bogey team? I don't respect them. I don't respect them. They have in their stand or state, you can't call it a stadium because it's so small. I guess you could call it a park, right? A council run park or something. In those stands, they have pictures of people on the side of those fences just to make it look like there's more people in there than they can hold. I have no absolute respect for Bournemouth. Never have, never will. If any other team had beaten us, well, apart from say Sheffield,
I was going to. What about Brighton?
No, Brighton. I
We have to
don't
wait till
detest.
this weekend.
No,
for him
I
to get
don't
his take on
detest
that.
Brighton. I just find them irrelevant. You know what I'm saying? Bournemouth, I detest.
So irrelevant. You'll go into the game this weekend, though, right?
Yeah, I didn't know it was
And you
against
forgot
you.
you were
but
playing
Yeah, you just bought a random ticket. You're like,
I knew I was going to the City ground. I did not know who the opponents were. I had to look up
we
the
all,
name.
we all
you know
do
what I'm
that.
saying?
Yeah, easy mistake.
And it's a 12:30 one.
One thing I would say about Bournemouth is that everyone's going on about their injuries, and I've looked through, and there's only about 3 players that would start.
Thank you.
Well,
They
they haven't had the guy that scored the hat trick against Forest. I think he'd scored 3 goals in his entire career.
Yeah, he played
Yeah, they're all
against. He
against
started
Forest.
against Villa.
They're all
Though,
against Forest.
he started against Villa last season. Ouattara, he's more of a wide man, but yeah, I was like, everyone keeps going on about these injuries, but I mean, Senesi would start, Evan Nielsen would start, and Sinisterra probably would start. But apart from that,
Rich, I'm
Unal's
so
a
glad
sub,
you're on the panel,
Scott's
Rich.
a
It's good to
sub,
have some football knowledge.
Arahu was crap, Adam Smith's crap, and Hill, I've never heard of him. So
Thank you.
yeah, they've got some all right players out, but it's hardly anything to write home about. Having said that, they played very well on Saturday, and obviously played very well the Saturday before.
And let's hope they play well the Saturday coming.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, right, Pete, you look so shocked, right? Let me ask you a question, right? Let's imagine this scenario, yeah? Sunderland play Newcastle this weekend, okay? Let's call it, I don't know, FA Cup. That's any way you'd meet or whatever, right? They tonk you 5-0. Are you coming on the next stream happy clapping Sunderland saying, well done, Sunderland, you deserve to win. Congratulations.
Not a chance. But they're all rivals.
So why are you looking so shocked? Yeah, but we have rivalry with Bournemouth because we haven't beaten them since 2015. No one else wants to be their rivals. They've tried with Southampton. Like, we got Portsmouth. We got a smaller club than you were more interested in, right? They've tried. We detest them for their cheating. That's what we don't like about them. That's why, right? So it's the whole thing. This ain't Forest Derby. I ain't saying it's on that level, but this is their World Cup because they've won nothing. This is their World Cup, right? And I don't need to acknowledge them. That's all I'm saying.
It's a big win, though. It was a big win.
Yeah, but they're still seventh.
And it's put them now 4 points within touching distance of you guys. So
Yeah, but they got Liverpool next.
they have, but they've got Liverpool. I'm sure it's at their place again. Is it Vitality again?
Yeah.
So they're going to come in with it in confidence. Whether they win it or not is a different thing. But you know, let's talk about Forest for a second. Poor performance, right? Nobody turned up in that game.
Horrible.
You did call it, to be fair, the week before, and when you realised you were playing them and thinking, we never win there. But everyone's now starting to think, maybe more so outside of the Forest fan base, that's going to be sort of the downturn. You knew you had a tough run in coming through to February and beyond. Are you worried that that's going to be the start of maybe a downturn of form, or are you expecting to hit back? Who have you got next? You got Brighton, and then after Brighton, who have you got?
Fulham away, then you lot, then Man City and Arsenal. I can't remember which way around.
So it's a tough run of the next 4 or 5 games. Are you worried that defeat is going to have an impact on Forest?
My biggest worry about that defeat, my biggest worry about it is, look, if we be serious for a second and put all the banter aside, right? The thing that frustrated me the most was when we went 1-0 down to a horrific mistake from Ryan Yates. I would have subbed him off then and there. Nuno continued with that plan. He sat off the ball, and Bournemouth were able just to pass the ball between Howson, who I'll give him credit. He had a good game, right? But there was no pressure from the Forest. There was no press, no nothing, no desire to win it back. And it was almost like, okay, well, we were expecting us to go in the lead, as in that's how Nuno set us up. And it didn't happen. It's like, oh crap, what do we do now? And by the time he'd reorganized it, it still wasn't working. And my worry going into this Brighton game is if Nuno tries to do the opposite and goes attacking. Because I think Brighton suit us. I can't remember the score last season. Was it 3-1 or was that the season before? Adam, can you remember?
I can't, but sounds right. We're always...
It's about that, wasn't it? We've done all right against them. And we have caught them at good times when we've played them. I think you had just lost to Man U or something in the semi-finals of the FA Cup. That was 2 years ago.
You catch us a good time now as well, so don't worry about it.
Yeah, so we tend to do all right against Brighton at home since we've been back. So I think that will tell us more than the Bournemouth, Bournemouth game. Because just like you guys, you don't win against Bournemouth. It's the same with us, similar bogey teams. So I'm more interested to see what happens to this Brighton game. And I think Forest will be fine. You look at the next few games, yeah, they are tough, but everyone told me in December Forest were going to come out with 0 points and we went on a 7-game streak or whatever it was. So, look, football is football. Not every team is going to win every week. I haven't had to have an L in about 2 months. I'll take my L's. I've had plenty of them as a Forest fan throughout my life. So L's are nothing new to me, but I'm not going to lie, I was getting used to non-L's, man, and it was quite nice, mate. It was quite nice. As you well know, Pete, same team, same annoying bogey team, mate.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, Jay's fighting your corner there. We lose 1 game since the 4th of December now. Everyone has us.
That's so true. It's the narrative of the mainstream media who said this for 2 months ago. They're now trying to say, I told you so. All right. Well, 1 loss isn't a streak. So
it's because it was 5. It's because it was 5-0. Like if it was a 1-0, 2-0, then it's like, okay, no, the wheels haven't come off, but the bus exploded. Like this.
Yeah, but you know how I see it, Adam? How I see it is it doesn't matter if it was 1 or 7. When Forest lose, we're not in a goal difference race. If you see what I mean, we'll never have the same goal difference. Liverpool, Arsenal, Newcastle, all those teams around us. We're already miles behind them anyway. So that goal difference thing doesn't come into play. It might do if we start dropping and get into that 5th, 6th area.
That's from a morale standpoint. It might not from just a numbers in the table standpoint, but your players aren't going to want to get smashed.
Hey, bro, I'm putting positive spin on it, right? Just let it go, man. Just let it go. I'm putting a positive spin on it.
No, I love it.
To be fair, Wolfie, to back you up, mate, Villa lost 5-1 to Newcastle last season, still got 4th. We lost, I think, 3-0 to Liverpool, still got 4th. So yeah, you sometimes the big defeats, you just have to take it. And like our Villa's goal difference has always been bad, but we still got 4th position last season just from the fact of winning those games against the teams around us as well.
Rich, I don't know if you got different lighting on today, but you are looking fabulous.
What are you doing sticking up?
Because I'm backing you up, innit? It's because I'm backing you up.
Unbelievable.
Can I ask you a question, Rich, as an experienced person who's been in this position? When I speak to my other Villa mates, they say it wasn't those big defeats that hurt you. It was when you drew a Sheffield last season. Was it a draw there? It was those unexpected ones that were more hard to recover from than what you expect to lose, if you see what I'm saying. Would you have agreed with that?
Possibly. It was. I mean, everyone when Newcastle beat us 5-1 in the first game of the season, everyone was like, Villa is going to get nowhere near to anywhere. So that was a bit of a kind of a false perspective. But yeah, we talked about this last week, I think, Pete, with regard to when it seemed to be a game that could have taken us to second in the table or top of the table, we just fell at that hurdle. And sometimes when it was least expected, like the Arsenal away game that kind of sealed fourth spot for Villa, no one expected us to beat them, and we did 2-0. So yeah, it's one of them. Whereas it's a similar thing with Newcastle. They'll probably have that this season if they do keep winning. It's can you win the game that's going to get you into third position, second, whatever it is, to kind of show that you are the one to be counted on. At the minute, Forest are in that position where everyone's like, brilliant that they're in the top four, but have they got it? Can they stay the race? And they, like you say, when they get beat, it's like, well, nah, they can't do it. So this next game is massive for you guys for mentality, like Adam said. It's the noise around everything. Because if you lose again, it's like, yeah, they have kind of the bubble is
then the
burst.
knives will sharpen up, definitely. Yeah. And I think when we look at this game week coming up, we've got some crazy top of the table games. You got Arsenal, Man City. Who was the other one? Oh, Liverpool got Bournemouth. A lot of teams are playing each other. I think it's actually a good opportunity for Villa and Newcastle to make some moves. So you got Wolves and you got
Villa are hanging down with us in the
Villa got Wolves and Ipswich in the next two league games.
You need to make hay on them ones.
Well,
that's why we got to beat Brighton. Sorry,
I just wanted to put up the table just really quickly. Like, because you talk about the goal difference here. Like, you've obviously got a 6 goal difference, but if you look around you, all the way down to Bournemouth, you're significantly higher, and there's only 4 points difference, mate. And this is the thing. So you're saying that goal difference may not matter, but you'd have been sitting on double figures not long beside us had you not been beaten.
We were on 11 before the kickoff, mate.
But this is the point. If you've not taken such a heavy loss, you'd have been closer up there. And goal difference could well be the difference at this moment in time. It's the difference between us being in fourth and fifth with Man City. It could well be the difference later on. So are you not worried? I know you're saying you're not that worried, but should you be worried at the fact that actually that could well be the case, that you could lose out on
it depends on the question, Pete. Am I looking up or am I looking over my shoulder? Do you know what I mean?
Well, the title of the show is Looking Up. So is that
looking up? No, like even if we were to, in my wildest dreams, be able to catch Liverpool or Arsenal, we have to beat them on points. We're not going to beat them on goal difference, right? In terms of below, yes, of course it's a worry. But if Forest were to beat Brighton this weekend, and Arsenal were to win, for example, and Liverpool beat Bournemouth, then we're now looking at a 7-point gap to 7th place. Do you know what I mean? Like, I get the goal difference important, but give me points over goal difference all day. So Forest never had good goal difference, mate. Like, even when we got promoted, I think Bournemouth would have had a better one, and Fulham. Can't remember exactly what the numbers were, but it's just, did we overtake Bournemouth? Yeah, we overtook them very late on in the goal difference. Anyway, that's irrelevant to the point. The point here is points mean prizes. Give me the points. Give me the points. What I've worked out is how many points do you need for Champions League realistically? Do you know what I mean? That's the key, and that's my countdown. I know you're saying the fixtures coming up are tough, but if we can get ourselves 30, 33 points, something like that, I think 76 to 77 gets you top 4. It probably goes down to top 5, so you can drop a couple off on that.
I think it'd be less than that, personally. Well, we had this conversation on our review, myself and Chris on Saturday. if I'm right in thinking, Rich, you got 68, 69 that got you Champions League football last season. Is that right?
Yeah, I was just going to check there what got it, but
we definitely didn't get 70. I think we got 71, 72 points that got us Champions League. You definitely got in the 60s. It was either 68 or 69.
yeah, it
I
was.
got
It
here,
was.
actually.
So for me, at this season,
Villa got 68. You're right.
Yeah.
And then the season before, you got 71.
Oh, 71. So for me, I'm looking at it and I'm thinking I don't think any of us will need 76 points to secure Champions League football. I think it could be.
So in that sense,
bearing in mind,
we're 26 points away from 70, just over halfway through the season. Do you know what I mean? I think the problem with this season, Pete, is the bottom teams are so bad that everyone's picking up, in general, the points off the bottom 5, should we say?
Speak for yourself.
Brighton. Yeah.
We
Where's
specialize.
Deji? Where's Deji when you need him?
Yeah. I would include them in that bottom 5, you know what I'm saying? And I think there's too many free points being put up for grabs. I do think the top 4, let's call it top 4 for now, is going to require more points, probably that Newcastle level in the 70s to get it. I would say, just because I just feel the league is stretched. When you look at the top 8, it's squashed. Obviously, outside of Liverpool, bottom 5, pretty squashed. And then there's these teams in the middle. You want to be playing those teams when they're on the beach. So it's a long way to go, guys. It's a long way to go. We're only in Jan still.
Definitely. And it's a big month ahead. And I just want to show this really quickly because I want to get Adam's point of view because, Wolf is predicting a win on Saturday. You can argue he's in his rights to do that, but I want to hear Adam's perspective on that. Just really quickly, again, we looked through this in terms of fixtures, and I'm just going to go back right to the top because we went all the way through. These are the fixtures this weekend. So obviously, Forest, Brighton, we've got Fulham. You've got the late kickoff, Rich, away. And then you go into Arsenal, got Man City, so they're going to drop points there. Chelsea against West Ham, the possibilities. Liverpool with their game in hand, and then you got Brighton, Chelsea. Villa got Ipswich, which is would be pretty straightforward. You've got then Fulham, we've got Man City, so we're all playing each other. Bournemouth. If you look at this set of fixtures all the way through, Bournemouth have probably got the best set of fixtures out of all of us. And this is someone else put this in the chat earlier. Is it that they've got Southampton there? If we go down, look at the next set of fixtures after that, coming towards the end of February, you can see Fulham have got Palace, Villa, Chelsea, Brighton, Southampton. I think we're on the Sunday. We play Liverpool,
the big one, the Alliance meet.
Well, that exactly, but that's a massive Sunday. Man City, Liverpool as well. Like we're all in it. Wow. We're all playing each other. Then you got after that Brighton, Bournemouth. You got away to Palace, which is not easy. Fulham go to Wolves, Chelsea. Okay, pretty straightforward. But you look at these fixtures. We go to Liverpool at that point.
We got Arsenal.
We got Arsenal. Man City got Spurs. Like you got all of these teams that are all playing each other. Then you got Man City. You go to Brentford, Rich. You got these fixtures, Fulham, Brighton. This month going into sort of March.
Tasty.
Yeah, I think it's about most managers will be looking at the blocks of 6 matches and saying, can we come out of it with 10 to 12 points from these 6 matches? That's essentially what they'll do. They won't, like, obviously you say on paper Villa should beat Ipswich or whatever, who Bournemouth should beat Wolves or whatever, but you just never know with them games because they're fighting for their lives and anything can happen in these games. I think most coaches look at it and say, as long as we can keep a consistent level of 1.8, 2 points per game, then that's what they'll look at.
Yeah, definitely. And they're putting themselves in a great position. So, but equally, I think Bournemouth have as well. They're right in the mix, and I think we have too. I think you got a little bit of work to do, Rich, but we'll come on to that in a second. I want to come to you, Adam, because
Wolfie was been missing out on cookings, by the way. We got to do this properly, Pete. Of course. Sorry, carry on. I'll just make it.
No, I agree. And I think, Adam, you talked about it before we went live. You'll agree as well. not great at the moment. Look, talk to us about the weekend. What's going wrong for you, mate?
I'd rather not. Yeah. And look, there's a difference. There's a difference, Wolfie. When we lose and when we're shit, I will call it out. I'm happy to call it out.
I did say we were shit.
I'll give it credit to the other side that, you know, if they've done a half decent job. We've been awful with pretty much outside of 2 games where we were fortunate or played half decent, semi-recent. We've been crap. The game against Everton, there was nothing good that came out of the game. There was nothing good. We were tragic. Our possession in the second half of that game was 80 something. I think we had 16 shots in the game. We just did nothing. It was so potable. If Hertzler was sat on the side and just ripped off a mask, it was Graham Potter, I would not have been shocked in any way, shape, or form. It was really, really unimpressive. We have struggled under every manager that we've had since pretty much been in the Premier League have not been able to break down sides that sit deep. And more sides just come to the MX and sit deep. So our home form this year is really unimpressive as well. So this game against Forest, like, the only redeeming thing, I think, is that honestly, that we're not at home. Our home form has been really, really bad, and our away form has been a little bit better. Head to head, it's been pretty close, Wolfie. I think we've only lost to you once in the Premier League in the last few years, and
there's been a lot of draws.
A few draws. We won a couple of them. You guys should win this. You guys should win this based on the fact that what we did against Everton, we looked like we could have played for 3 hours and not scored. But this is Brighton, and we'll show up against teams we're not expected to show up at, in fixtures we shouldn't show up at, and we'll wet the bed when we're expected to win. So anything could happen. The only other thing that gives me hope is, imagine my surprise when I was just hanging out on YouTube the other day and I'm watching, is it James Lawrence or James Alcott, Wolfie?
Oh, yeah.
And I see you come in earlier this last week with your prediction that Forest are going to win the league, and then you get beaten 5-0. That is my only hope, is that you've created some kind of curse on your own team. And hopefully that continues.
I appreciate the attempt at a deflection, but you're not getting off that easy, mate.
I just spent the last 5 minutes talking about how crap we are. I'm not deflecting anything.
I just want to ask you about your defense, because your boy's back. Dunkin' Donuts is back, right? You were talking about you've had loads of players out. What's the injury situation currently like for you? Because you have been crying a lot about missing centre backs and what have you. Are they back?
Mostly, but we're still down to basically like 2.5 defenders. So Adam Webb,
2.5.
well, because I think Dunk's legs have gone a little bit, especially without a rest. Adam Webster, I haven't thought he's been up to Premier League level for a little while. Let me correct myself. I think he's up to Premier League level, but not in the system that we play. He can't play on a high line. So really, we've got one central defender that really plays the way we want to play in Jan-Paul van Hecke. And then we've kind of got either Webster or Dunk, depending on fitness. If we get another injury, it's going to be problems, which is why we're being really, really heavily linked to cash in from Derby. They're trying to bring in another body. Yeah, I know, exactly. Even every Derby fan that I've seen talk about has been like, yeah, take him. So that's always a good sign, isn't it? But we'll see what happens there. But we still got problems. I mean, if you look at the injury tables from this year, there's no surprises who's up there at the top. It's like Arsenal is one of them, because they've started to suffer massively from injuries and their form's dropped off. And then you've got Brighton and Spurs and Villa, Rich, right? So shocker. The teams that have had continued injuries in important positions have all started to see massive drops in form and slipping down the table. Like, there's no surprise here. But
you've only got 5 players out and injured. One of
them,
we
just started to get some
the excuses. The other one is what's his face, Milner, who's like older than death.
Experience.
So technically, you've got 3 players out with all this crying that you're doing about injuries. You starting to sound like Deji, mate.
3 players out. I could list more than 3 right this second. But look, it's not just the injuries. It's injuries. It's style of play. It's the adaptation of the players in the Premier League. This is a fairly new team that's been brought together. There's been no consistency in starting 11s because of those injuries. So we look like a team that doesn't know how to play in a cohesive unit, and that's starting to show. Like, our results outside of the Everton game. I mean, we beat Man United, who are Man United, and we beat Ipswich. Prior to that point, we hadn't won a game since Bournemouth in November.
Are you surprised that that Enciso went out on loan?
No.
No.
Because we've got too many players in that position. He wants to play in the number 10, and we've got a load of players that want to play in the number 10 position. It's the only place where we're not suffering from like squad depth issues, because you've got really João Pedro wants to play in the 10. Jorginho Ruta wants to play in the 10. You've got Brajan Gruda, who we're having to play on the right side, but he wants to play in the 10 as well.
Buonanotte, who you've loaned out as well.
Buonanotte, who we loaned out, and we're about to get rid of Ferguson as well, right? Is the room going to pop over to somewhere where our former manager's hanging out, Marseille or West Ham? I could see West Ham very much happening. But we're going to be light up there. If Danny Welbeck gets one of his regular injuries, I say when he gets one of his regular injuries, then we're going to have to play another one of those players out of position. So we're playing a lot of sort of square pegs in round holes as well. But weirdly, like number 10 is one of the places where we don't need extra bodies. The Enciso one's funny though. Against Ipswich, you've got the full Enciso experience. Comes on, should get red carded, basically just guts a player up and then gets an assist. Classic.
Are you playing too high a line? Is there a little bit of Ange in your boy?
It's not
Do you think you should drop that line a bit?
Yes and no, because if you drop it, then suddenly you're changing the whole philosophy and style of football you spent the entire year training the team up on, which I think is probably the same situation Ange has got himself into at Spurs, right? Then what are you? What kind of team are you? Are you then a sit deep team and become defensively rigid and become a little bit more like a Forest or someone else in that design? That the players that we've got aren't set up for that. Like someone's mentioned Estupinian in the chat here. He's been very good the last couple of seasons. He's been really tail end awful this year, awful, like really bad. If you watch him, he plays like a deer on ice. He's always trips over and then does some kind of bizarre flick. It always looks really untidy the way he plays. But previously, he's got out of situations like that because he's so good going forward. Defensively, he's been an absolute liability at left back. And now
he playing there, Lamptey now.
Well, he came on. He started last game, Lamptey at left back, and then he got moved to right back, and we moved someone else left back. We also played Adam Webster up front towards the end of the game. Against Everton. Yeah, might as well throw the kitchen sink at 1-0 down to Everton at home.
See, all these new coaches and that, they always go back to the tried and trusted. Put a centre back up front. Like,
put the big boy up.
All these styles you get.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. But yeah, like Ferdy Kadioglu was signed to play left back, right, and give Estupinian a rest, and he's on the surgery table. So,
are there any doubts about your manager yet?
Yeah, there has been massively. The fan base has been really split by it. When we went on that run of form before we, got a couple of wins against Man United and Ipswich, there were question marks because people weren't seeing enough out of, even when you lose or draw, right? You guys know this. You still want to see something from those draws. If you see something about a style of play or situations where you can get on board with it, you go, you know what? Didn't go our way, but there's something. And we didn't see a lot of that. We started to see a little bit more of it. And obviously the injuries have messed things up a fair bit. Way too early to lob out a 31-year-old manager that you've brought in as a project in a year where you've had tons of injuries and tons of new players come in. But look, you don't know what happens for the rest of the season. If he continues to not be able to get something out of these players and get them to, play the way he needs them to, anything can happen. We couldn't beat Southampton when we played them, right? If we can't beat Southampton again, there's going to be massive question marks asked. I know that's not anytime soon, but in a few weeks, you've got to be getting the points where they're available.
And you've just touched on a point there. You want to try and get as many points as you possibly can. So this one baffles me a little bit. Is that Ferguson being linked with Leverkusen, but yet you're needing as many points as possible? How are you in a position to be able to let him go when you're desperate for points and you're almost wanting as many strikers or quality players available as possible? What's going on there? Because it doesn't quite make sense. It looks like at one point he's going to go to West Ham. I think Chelsea were looking at him. Now Leverkusen are looking at him, which is like
we had a look.
Forest?
Yeah, we had a look at him.
Oh, wow. So what's going on with that? Because that kind of just makes sense to me.
There's been obviously he's been out of form. Like there's no doubt about it. He's been awful for quite a while, and he had the big injury last year. But he scored once this year, and he didn't really score much towards the latter part of the end of last season before he had his injury either. He had his really nice run of form at the start of the last Premier League campaign. So he's not been able to score for a long time. The other thing that he has is that when he comes on, apart from the nice goal he took earlier on in this season, it doesn't even look like he's going to score. I know that's a weird thing to say, but he doesn't look like he's in the right system. And I don't think he is. Look, we're not the kind of team that wants that outside of the last 5 minutes when you're 1-0 down to Everton at home. We don't really want that massive, big-bodied number 9 up top. Danny Welbeck fits perfectly into the system the way he plays, where he can link up with runners, link up with that number 10, play the ball out wide to Mitoma or someone else on the right-hand side and bring in the play. We don't really play with the target man back to goal. And that's why I don't think he wants to be in this system at the moment. And the club also sees a player that's out of form, needs to find himself again, and then come back and see what you've got. They don't want to sell him at the moment. I think there's been talk about they'll sell him. Same with Tony Bloom and co. They'll sell any player for the right price, but
to Chelsea,
they don't want it for. They pay the wrong price, but the right price to us. They don't want to sell him. So this will be a loan move unless they get some stupid offer. But no one's going to pay stupid money for him right now because he's not been doing anything.
Well,
I read 2 questions on that.
Just really quickly, I read today that that Brighton had rejected a permanent bid. I think it was Fabrizio Romano tweeted out.
It wouldn't have been enough money.
No, yeah, probably not. But it shows that he's got the interest. Like someone else put in the chat, Nick Thornton put in there. I'd love to see Ferguson. Like we got Callum Wilson that barely can come off the bench and play 2 minutes without getting injured. Like I take Ferguson as a backup for Isak because I personally don't think we can rely on Isak to play every single game for the rest of this season and expect him to stay fit. I just think it's not realistic. So. I just find it a little bit baffling. Just before I come to you, Wolfie, thank you to your super chat, Lisa. Everyone, we've got 270, 280 in the chat right now, watching live. Click the likes, people. We only got 48, 50 likes.
66.
It's gone up to 66, but Mark
should be 100 at least by now.
Of course, and this is when we had 214. Make sure we click those likes. It only takes a second, but it means the world to us. And thank you for that. So go on, Wolfie. Sorry.
I just wanted to ask 2 questions, and I am being serious here. I don't know if you'd agree, Adam. He would fit perfectly for a Nuno system. I see him as a younger version of a Chris Woods. Do you know what I mean? Like he's strong, he can hold the ball up, probably not the quickest on the pitch, can finish when he's in form. Like, could you see that as a fit? Because I've had this argument with the rest of my guys, and some of them would definitely take him. Some are like, no, he scored 1 goal, in a century. I think he would work so well for Forest in that Nuno system.
Yeah, I mean, anyone that plays in a system where you've got someone that you want to aim for further up the pitch and that doesn't need to necessarily be a playmaker. And someone mentioned in the chat now, like he's not really a target man. I'm selling him short a bit. Yes and no. Like he is in the definition of what you want from a target man. He does play that role well. Can he do more than that? Yes, he absolutely can. And he's got an incredible shot on him, and his placement of the ball is second to none. It was why people were even throwing out the hallowed Shearer name to talk about him as a potential. He's excellent. He's not just a target man, but that's what he's playing. That's what you can see him as to start with. I think he'd be great. I think he'd be great in a Forest system. But again, the risk you've got with a striker that's been out of form for so long is what's it going to take to get them back to form? And is it worth your time in a run-in for a European position for you to basically try and find the form of a Brighton player again, especially if you're loaning him with no obligation or no buy option in there? What are you getting out of it? A player that's not scoring at the moment in the hopes that you're going to get end product from him? I don't see a massive amount of
that's a good
positive.
point. And that is my second question. Like, because am I right in saying you were quoting Man United when he was in that hop spell at the start of the last season, somewhere like 90 to 100 mil for him?
The numbers that get thrown out that surround Brighton transfers are always made up because the club never puts out numbers. But sure, if you throw out comparisons to other players that we've sold with very, very high potential that look like they can be something amazing and are young, yeah, those are the numbers that have been used for other players.
So what's he worth now? What's he worth? Well, in your estimation?
I've got no idea. I mean, what is a 1 goal a season number 9 worth that's injured for most of the time?
Either.
Nothing. Like, which is why he's going to go out on loan.
What would you sell him for?
I wouldn't sell him because why would you sell low?
If you had to, what would you say? What would be? What do you think is a realistic fee for him right now?
Well, that's the problem, isn't it? Like, I think a realistic fee is clubs are going to bid like 20, 30, something like that for him, right? With the potential, maybe even a little bit higher, but that's not good enough for what Brighton think his potential is, right? So for them, they've got a player that maybe are like, we're making up numbers here. This is a player when he's in form and he's hitting goals in, this is a 70, 80, 90 million plus pound player. Why would we sell him for 30 million? Let's get him to find his form, show everyone what he's worth again. Then we'll take him back. If he fits into our system, amazing. If not, we'll sell him for the marked up price. So I just don't see a scenario unfolding where someone will bid enough to get him. The club don't like to sell low on players. It's just a bad time to sell him.
I feel like he's 30. I'd say he's about 30 mil for me.
Because of the potential as well.
The potential. How old is he, Adam?
I was going to say, how old is he now?
He's young. He's
21 or something. Right? Was he less than that?
He's 20.
20.
Wow.
He's not even 21 until October.
And was it under Potter that he was brilliant, or was it under who's the manager you had just?
Was it De
Zerbi?
Potter gave him his debut initially, but never really like did a ton with him. De Zerbi at the start of last season was the one that had him in that really like amazing little run of form before he started picking up.
The one game that he scored a hat trick, the one game.
There you go. Yeah. But he's like you say, you think it's a compliment to him, right? When you describe a player, you say it feels like they're 30 years old and he's 20. Yeah, because he's been relevant already in his career. And that's why clubs are so interested in him. As you said, the potential, like if you can get this player to work, it could be magical. It could be really, really good. It's just not working right now.
I feel like the lapse probably this season's Evan Ferguson.
I get what I agree with that. Yeah, I agree. It's not just him. Last season, they were all talking about the Luton striker, weren't they? Whatever his name was.
Yeah. He doesn't even play anymore, does he?
He's still at Luton. So there's a lot of these players that get that hype for having a little purple patch and what have you. I don't think that's the case with Ferguson. I reckon there's a quality player in there. I would take him tomorrow. And I think what you were saying, Adam, makes a lot of sense to me. Like, why would it's almost more unattractive for a club to try and fix him for you and then send him back? And I think Nuno could fix him. Look what he did with Chris Wood. He wasn't scoring at Newcastle, brought him in. I think he suits Nuno down to a T. I would love to see this get done. Yeah,
he does.
But it just depends if you're desperate. I think we'll give him to a team that's desperate for which is West Ham.
West Ham, yeah.
They're playing anyone and anything up front.
But why would you though? Why would you? Because you don't want. This is the thing that I don't understand. If I'm Brighton, I'm moving him to Leverkusen. He might not play as many minutes, but he's out the country. He's learning a different style of football.
Or letting him go to like a Burnley or a Leeds or someone like top of the Championship.
We talked about that in the last podcast. Top of the Championship would be great for him.
It doesn't make sense to me that Forest, that West Ham, like we're not linked with him, but I'd love us to be. Like we could be in the mix potentially with him. If you guys sell Duran, you might want him on loan. Villa, who knows? But like what I'm saying, the point is that why would you even loan him out to a team around you? Because all it takes is for someone like Ferguson to go in at West Ham and they start putting a few results together and they end up above Brighton because they're going to run with Potter, and it just doesn't make sense. Like you're literally just throwing a player out there to actually do better than your current club, and he could have potentially done that with you. Because I have to be honest, I'm looking at you. Just named 2 players when you're talking earlier, Adam, Welbeck and João Pedro, who are on their days superb players, but both can't stay fit, and they all regularly have injuries.
João Pedro doesn't even want to play in the number 9 either.
Yeah, so why then get rid of him? Give him a run of games. Like you've just said, you're not playing well at the moment. Give him a run of games and say, right, you're playing for the next 2 or 3 games, or 3 or 4 games. Show me what you're about, and you're playing 18, 90 minutes for that game. Like, just give him a run.
Well, Daniela's made a really good point in the chat. Like, doesn't Ferguson have a say in this? And that's a key point. There's a lot of rumors around the fact that he's not been happy. There's been rumors about falling out with management around his, lack of game time. There's a lot of speculation about this injury that he has being one of those ones where it's like, oh yeah, he's injured, but we're gonna ham the injury up a little bit because he's not happy, and we're gonna keep him out of the squad. So I think there's a desire to get him a bit of a fresh perspective somewhere else as well. I think your point is a good one about why would you loan him out to someone around you if you think he's could potentially come good, and suddenly it's actually going to shoot yourself in the foot. The value increase that you get out of an informed Ferguson scoring a bunch of goals for another team is probably worth more than the one position you might drop from the change that happens. So again, as with everything that Brighton do, it's going to be based on the numbers and if it works financially and if they think it's going to be more beneficial or not. I think a Premier League move makes sense just purely from the fact that the likelihood is he's going to be most appealing to a Premier League club if you do ultimately sell him fully in the future for a full transfer. And they'll want to see that he's got that Premier League experience and can do it in the Premier League over a long period of time.
Can I
just ask one question,
man?
Yeah. Can I just ask one question? Yeah. They keep. I know loads of people asking about Duran, and it's like they're probably making up rumors just to keep it interesting. But one question for Adam: is this going to be like a real turning point of a season for Brighton? In that, if they finish like 9th, 10th outside of Europe, is this going to be a case of like selling their prized assets will get picked off, but you won't be able to then replace with the kind of gems and stuff that you've been able to do in the past seasons? And like, could that spell a little bit of a decline for Brighton? Because it is a bit of a precarious position, isn't it?
It's got parallels a little bit. Brighton's like infamous fall off that everyone expects to happen. Wolfie, it's a little bit like Forest's form dropping off. It's like suddenly you lose a game and everyone's like, I know it. I told you. They can't do it anymore.
I'm ready. I've got the knife sharpened. I'm ready.
The club is set up to, and they've come out and said this, the club is now set up in a way in which anything below a top half finish isn't acceptable. All of the staff bonuses and everyone are designed around the top half finish. That's what they want. I think this season, given everything that's happened, has started to turn into a season where you take a 9th or 10th and you walk away from it and you go, it's a learning season, whatever, let's come back stronger next year. You start to drop into 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th, big questions get asked. Do I think it's going to be the end of an era or like the fall of Rome or anything like that? No, we're not in a financial situation where we're going to need to like suddenly clear house and sell at losses or anything like that. And there are still players that have played in this team this year through bad form for the club and being still looking like they can be something special. Baleba, even against Everton, still look like a world-class player.
Oh, he's incredible. He's going. He's your next big cab off the rank.
So, yeah, I'm not worried about that.
There's a here we go, lads. I don't know if you've seen it.
Yeah, we're going to come to that in a second. But Ads, I know you might have to shoot soon. So just on this Brighton topic before we go, Sophie B wants to know, are you going to do us a favour next week?
Where's the alliance, Sophie? Where's the alliance?
No, I've always liked Sophie. No, this is you got to crack out the Keegan meme. This is I would love it. I really would, but I'm not. I'm fully expecting disappointment this weekend. But
Adam, we need to do a preview. I need to do a preview if you're free later in the week.
I'd rather not, because I'll get clipped for it, won't I? Whatever I say.
Wolfie, what are you saying? Are you going strong win? Because Ads is not confident.
I don't think strong win. No, I think if we win, it'll be 1-0. I think Nuno will be adamant on the clean sheet. The clean sheet will be his prize on Saturday, because he came out and said we're 7-0 down over the last 130 minutes, whatever it is, of football, which tells me they've been drilled all week defensively. So if Brighton, I mean, Adam was exciting me a little, saying high line and all this. If they do come to the City Ground doing that, then I'd feel more confident than if they gave us the ball, because we're pretty clueless with the ball. If you look at what we did with Bournemouth.
We would do anything to give you the ball, because if you sit back like Everton did, if we can't break down Everton at home, then we've got no chance.
I see where he's doing the old reverse psychology here, as young Adam. I know where he's going with this.
He knows what you're doing. He knows what you do. He's a smart guy.
Low expectations, no disappointment.
Exactly. Story of my life.
A couple of comments on here I'm just going to throw up. Daz is he's out. He got hit with a storm. No electricity, no power. Daz has been out of action since Saturday morning, but he is well. Family are all okay, which is the most important thing. He's just waiting for things to get switched back on. That's why he's not on tonight. Chris is away, he's working away, so he's not able to make it as well. And of course, Deji's in a meeting, or somebody said.
He's at the airport, isn't he? He's at the Qantas desk.
Qantas Airlines, yeah.
He's waiting for Ange so he can get him on
the sign up,
Has he turned yet though? Because it feels like all the Spurs fans have now turned to Levy instead of Ange.
Oh, in terms of Levy, I'm not sure about his mindset on Levy, but as Panster said, like in terms of Ange, he was probably one of the first.
Yeah. he was the first and the last. He just kept flip flopping. I can keep up with him.
Brilliant stuff. Look, I want to switch to Villa. Just because we'll talk about the West Ham game in a second, but just a bit of news today that one of our Villa fans has put in the chat. Forth and Disasi and Felix potentially getting closer now. We'll talk about Felix in just a second, but I spoke to Billy about these two centre backs potentially coming in for Villa. Does that fill you with any confidence, excitement? Is that the type of recruitment you're looking for? Because I have to be honest, Rich, it wasn't the type of players I would expect you to be bringing in. Well, where are you on this?
Yeah, it's a little bit panic stations for me, centre back. Obviously, how Torres injured. Tyrone Mings goes down on Saturday. We let Diego Carlos go with the hope or with the thought that we're going to get Loic Bardet in from Sevilla. He kind of says he doesn't want to join, whether that be to do with game time promises or what, I don't know. So, yeah, then when Tyrone Mings goes down on Sunday, it's all of a sudden panic stations and we seem like we're kind of scratching around for centre-backs. Juan Foyth, he's one of these Emery-type players. He's done well for him before. I don't know about him. A bit more of a utility man. Doesn't really play very often, so I'm not sure about that. Disasi, obviously, a lot of Chelsea fans don't rate him at all, and it's one of them kind of must loan signings. It almost looks like, because we can't really get anyone else. I've seen today that we're interested in this Kevin Danso, who apparently Wolves were in for. Yeah. But apparently today Villa and Stuttgart are in for him. So lots can still happen. The Felix thing, I can't see it. I think it's every window it comes through, and it's just George Mendes puts Villa's name out there because Unai Emery said a couple of years ago that he loves João Felix and is his kind of favourite player, and whatever. I just think Villa's name gets touted around. Then it's obviously tagged on to John Duran. Chelsea were interested in John Duran. And then it's kind of, like Wolfie said before, the transfer window is boring. The transfer window is rubbish these days. So they have to try and create some sort of story. Yeah. And it's not good for players like John Duran, if I'm being honest. He's 20, 21 years of age. He's getting talked about here, there, and everywhere. Al Nasser were interested in him as well. And then they've gone for someone else now. I don't think anything will happen on that front. Disasi probably does happen, but other than that, I can't see anything else happening. with regards to big. It's virtually impossible now to get an 80 to 90 million pound deal over the line in January. It's just, I don't know how that happens. And then you're getting two players involved with João Felix and John Duran. That's just never going to happen. We've got 6 days of the transfer window to go. That's just not going to happen. I can't see it.
Yeah.
Don't let Charlie in. Did you say you linked with Lloyd Barde? Lloyd Barde?
Apparently we had the deal agreed, like with Sevilla, but he didn't want to join the project, as they all call it these days. So yeah, I don't know about that, but we sold Diego Carlos on the proviso that we had a centre back coming in. Then that didn't happen. Unai Emery said that he couldn't keep hold of Carlos because Carlos wanted to leave, but he was also on $100,000 a week. And if anyone saw our accounts, our wage to turnover is 96%. So we've got to get some wages off the players off the wage bill. But
Bro,
yeah, you might be able to tell us what Disasi is like. I know you guys say he's terrible, but
very good deal. No, do you know what? Right, he's not amazing, but in the right system, he will do a job. Like last season under Poch, he actually wasn't that bad. He was one of our better defenders. I think he played over 40 games in all competitions. He really wasn't terrible, but with Maresca and the way we play, he doesn't suit it at all. He's not a ball playing centre back or whatever, but he would do a job for you. I mean, are you looking to bring him in to start? Or are you just looking to bring in an extra body in a rotational basis?
I mean, we've got quite a few games, so I'm sure he'll get a fair bit of game time. I mean, that's the reason why Barde said he didn't want to sign. But from my perspective, I think we need as many centre backs as we can. You can't rely on Tyrone Mings to be fit, and play all these games. Pau Torres is out for another sort of 5 or 6 weeks. Whether he's going to be kind of fully fit in the next 2 months is another question. So yeah, for me, Disasi would be getting games 100%.
Yeah, no, he'd be all right. He would be all right. Look, I can only say from my experience, like what I've seen from him. Look, he could be a lot.
He's played in the French team and he's been in the French squad.
He's a front.
Rich, don't let him do this to you. Don't let him do this to you. Don't let him do this, Rich.
No, but no. All I'm saying is, right, I don't think he's terrible. But from my experience, like of seeing him at Chelsea, this last season and a half or whatever, there are deficiencies to his game. But as I've said, in the right system, maybe in a different environment, he could contribute something to Aston Villa. I mean, I look at what Emery's done on the signings that have been made. There's not that many that have been like shit, basically. So
my problem is
he'll do a job. But if you're wanting him to come in and be like a first choice centre back and a regular, then maybe he's not that guy.
Yeah, my problem is. What's that?
Sounds like you're really upset to be losing him, Charlie, the way you're bigging him up.
Shameless, mate. Charlie is shameless.
The player of this caliber if he's so good.
Facts.
No. He's not part of the plans. Don't suit the system. Doesn't suit the system.
Yeah. You saying it with a straight face.
He could go to a good home and be very useful to someone else. Someone will be very grateful for him, and Aston Villa could be grateful for him. It'd be a nice for him.
Honestly, Charlie, you've changed, man. When I first met Charlie a few years back, we sat down, we had breakfast together, me and Charlie.
We did, mate, in some grim place in Manchester.
Ever since I bought him breakfast, he's not been the same guy.
No, because we were 12th and in the doldrums then, and now it's a little bit better.
Now he's trying to cheat Rich out of money.
This is not my asset. I don't own this deal. I'm not selling him. Rich is not buying him off me.
Yeah,
I don't know. I'm starting to feel you're on some commission, man, or something going on here, Charlie.
I don't think major money's going to change hands.
I think it'll just be a loan.
But yeah, I don't know if Emery's been keen on the loan, and it just strikes me as being desperate because we haven't got our major target, and that's the problem for me. We had Zaniolo and we had Clement Longley on loan last season, and Longley was pretty decent, but I don't think Emery's wanted to go into the loan market because, like we've said before, ultimately you're never going to keep the player. and you're just making them either better for the other team, or they just don't settle in, and then they end up wasting
Rich, are you still looking
position.
at Foyth? Are you still looking at Juan Foyth at Villarreal?
That's the other signing that it looks like is going to happen. But as I said, there's so many names banded around. Kevin Danso has been named today that we're looking at. Obviously, Disasi, Foyth. There's so many names at the minute.
Are you looking for two or just one? Like, could you get? Would you looking for two?
How are you trying to offload?
Yeah, who else you trying to get rid of? Levi Colwell after his mistake the other day.
Chilwell's good next, mate. You're saying Chilwell, left back.
No. I'm asking if they because will it be Disasi and Foyth, or is it like one of the names that are being mentioned?
Well, we signed this Andres Garcia from Levante, who's kind of highly rated young Spanish fullback, but I still think he wants like a utility player in terms of Foyth, and I think he just wants a loan to tide him over with regards to Pau Torres and Tyra Mings for centre back. So yeah, I think that's the setup.
Rich, don't listen to Charlie.
If we're selling players, Clonlad just put a great suggestion in there.
You're all right.
No, Rich, I'm gonna be your guardian here, Rich. Right, fellow Midlands to Midlands here. Barde, get him. He is quality.
No,
he doesn't want. He turned Villa down. He's turned Villa down.
Did you know he was at Forest when we came?
Yeah, he didn't play, did he?
Literally, Cooper nearly ruined his career. Didn't play him. He played Steve Cook and Worrell ahead of Barde, who then went and won the Europa League the same year. So he is quality. He's pacey, good at football IQ.
Well, why is he
do what you got to do? Ignore Charlie.
I think he's got a deal with Liverpool at the end of the season.
That will hurt. Do you know how much he was going to cost us? We had an option on him, 12 mil.
Should we get our little violins out? 12 mil for Balde. What was it? 25 mil Mamouche. Could have been 20 mil Jimenez.
No. Those were negotiations. He was physically with us. And we played Steve Cook ahead of him. Anyway,
mate, he could have had Marmouche, could have had this guy, could have had all these guys.
Wasn't in the game. He wasn't through the gate. Barde was, man, and he got chucked back out. Unbelievable.
Okay, we'll stick with Villa just for a second. Obviously, they played at the weekend on Sunday against West Ham.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, surprising for me the result, the draw. West Ham. West Ham could have nicked it late on, to be fair. I'll come to Dan first before you get your sort of thoughts on it, Rich. Dan,
you outside Carrington waiting for the boys to come out?
Yeah, no, I'm
actually looking sharp, mate.
Just trying to show one of a prospective buyer around one of your hotels. Here you need to
Chelsea own everyone, apparently.
Dan, do they already own the hotel? Do they already own it? And you're just showing it to me?
They kicked me out.
What did you make of Villa then on Sunday? Obviously, another draw. Is, in your opinion, is Champions League having an impact on them? I keep saying that every week.
I said it would, and I meant it, and I didn't mean it in a, obviously to Billy, I meant it in a disrespectful way because he's a pleb. But for Rich, I genuinely don't. I think the Champions League, it's an emotional campaign. It's an emotional campaign. The teams you've played and the performances you've put in against some of the top teams in Europe, it was always going to have an effect. I know you bought squad players this season in the likes of Barkley and co, but it's a different beast, the Champions League. Wolfie will tell you next season. It's 100% a different beast. I think Emery's done an okay job this season actually to try and juggle both campaigns. They're not. What are they? Are they 2 points off? 2 points off Champions League places? At 2 or 3 points?
I think it's 4 points off Newcastle.
That's nothing at the moment, is it? So yeah. One thing I will say, and I think Rich will agree, they look tired. They do look tired at the moment. The Villa boys do look tired, and you're in a bit of a perilous situation as Newcastle are, as we are, where you can't really go out there and bring the players in. So you are having to unfortunately go for these players, these players that you wouldn't necessarily go for, and this is where I think it does ruin. I mean, our season's ruined, so I'll take us out of it. But teams like Newcastle, teams like Villa, it can absolutely impact the second half of your season, especially when you see City going out there spending 150 million on new signings. You've got Chelsea out there that are looking. You know what I mean? So I think it's a tough one. I think all that Emery can do this season is just juggle those plates and try and get to the end of the season. Hopefully, stick in Europe, and then you just reassess, bring some players in the summer. For me,
Yeah.
And then there's all the speculation on top of that in terms of performances, on top of performances, that arguably your main striker, I think he is, Duran, is being linked and potentially.
He's not a main striker.
He's
not. Have you seen he's absolutely stunk the place out the last 4 games that he's come off the bench.
Isn't it like I know he's a good.
Why are they bidding 80 million for him then?
No, but he's not going to go. Well, he won't go out. He's not going Al Nassr now because Victor Boniface is going there. But I don't know. I look at Duran, right, and yeah, okay, we could have signed him for 40 million in the summer, but yeah, I get it. 80 million pounds. You think he's 21? He signed a new contract. He's under contract until at least 28, 29, could even be 30. I don't know. And he's obviously like a lot of that price tag will be factoring in his potential, but surely from a Villa perspective, isn't it just like draining every single transfer window? Is this guy, will he, won't he go? I'm not saying you'd be better off without him, but if someone comes in for 80 million, I'm not saying, I doubt it's going to happen with 5 days of the window left, but in the summer, maybe Villa, just to save themselves a headache, would just be better cutting their losses, because every transfer window, it's like Duran this, Duran that, and it's just is it not a bit boring?
He's gone in the summer. He's gone in the summer. He's not an Unai Emery player. He's not an Unai Emery player. He is a player of unbelievable moments in games, and that's what's got him the headlines. Ollie Watkins is a striker who is good at everything, but he's not outstanding at anything, and that's what goes against Ollie Watkins. Whereas Duran is outstanding at the moments of brilliance of finishing. But I would guarantee you that the goal he scored against Everton, the goal he scored against RB Leipzig, Unai Emery would have been going mad, because he's like, why are you shooting from there? Why are you shooting from 35 yards? Because 9 times out of 10, it goes in Rose Ed. Unai Emery is about creating and making chances that you've got the biggest and best chance of scoring. So he hits it when Duran does stuff like that. I like it, and fans like it, because sometimes in certain situations, and this has been a problem with Villa this season, is that sometimes the players haven't taken the game into their own hands and gone after it and tried to win it and do something that's out of the ordinary. That's why we've won games, because Duran's done that. That's why we came back against Arsenal, because the players thought, sod this, we're just going to go for it. That should happen more, but a lot of the players are kind of conditioned and coached in Emery's style, because he's so demanding on what he wants them to do, that's how they are. And Watkins is that to a T. Watkins has got 10 goals and 10 Premier League goals, 7 or 8 assists this season, 100 goal involvements in 200 games for Villa. The fastest player since Harry Kane, English player since Harry Kane to do it in 2017. So, yes, Duran gets the headlines, but like I say, Watkins is undroppable, really. And that's
if I was playing devil's advocate, right, and looking at this, would it not? I get it, the money's massive, and maybe there's a few issues around potentially, and obviously with PSR issues and whatnot. I can understand it, but purely from a squad building perspective and a footballing perspective, if you've got a 21-year-old striker in John Duran who has got a lot of potential, and you've got an Ollie Watkins who is 28, 29, surely one trail of thought could be, doesn't it make more sense to move on Ollie Watkins, keep Duran, and bring someone else in? Do you get where I'm coming from?
Maybe, but I just don't. Ollie Watkins or John Duran I don't think he could do. He could adapt to how Emery wants him to play and how Emery's style is, but he's too many times if the body language, and if you look what Emery asks people to do, too many times he's kind of fallen short in that area. Yes, before the Newcastle game, he had to start because he was basically forcing Emery's hand through the performances. But, I just don't see, like you said before, the first thing you said was the noise around him. It's too much. And then you sign him for 18 million, you get an 80 to 90 million pound offer. The deal, the profit in the deal is just too much. There's too many other improvements that you could make across the squad.
His attitude as well, I think, is a major thing. I've seen him come off the field shaking his head like Cristiano Ronaldo did in his first stint with United against City. I'll never forget. But this is off the back of Ronaldo scoring 40 goals the one season, 30 goals the next. And I look at him and I think, you're not at that level yet, mate, to be looking at your manager, shaking your head like you're being dragged off. I actually disagree, Charlie. I think Villa look a far more complete side with Ollie Watkins up top. I think this kid at the moment is still developing his game, and I think he is more of an impact player. We've seen him start a couple of games this season, and Rich will tell you more than I will. But when I've watched, I think he looks lost a little bit when he starts games. I don't think he's anywhere near that product to be able to say, right, we move Watkins on. If anything, I'd be saying to Duran, look, Watkins is our guy for the next season and a half. We'll keep bringing you through. The problem is, and it goes with players all the time now, unfortunately, because there's hype around him, he believes this hype, he'll have his people around him telling him this hype, so he will be demanding to be pushed to the front of the queue, and I don't think he's anywhere near that yet. And I don't for 1 second think he's an £80 million player. How many starts has he had this season, Rich?
No, he's probably starting more in the Champions League. Like, he had that run of games where, like I said, it was impossible to ignore him, and he had a really good game against Man City. But I know he scored against Forest. I was at that Forest game. I thought he was terrible. He had about 3 touches all game. He doesn't make the movements that Watkins makes. Yes, fair enough, he put the ball in the box. But even the game on Sunday, and some of this goes on to Emery, none of the substitutions, it's not just Duran's fault, but none of the substitutions made any impact. Matson was crap when he came on. That was through circumstance with Mings going off. But like, you take Watkins and Bailey off. Bailey wasn't having his best game, but it's just the familiarity and the link up, and then you bring Marlon and Duran on, and we just completely went to pieces. Like, Duran doesn't make any of the movements that Ollie Watkins doesn't do. And particularly if you're playing against a three at the back, you have to move their centre backs around. That's how you create the space. You have to run into the channels, and we just didn't do it. I don't know whether he was instructed in terms of what to do, but yeah, the hold up, the movement, you need all that, because you can't just rely on potentially smashing in a goal from 30 yards or potentially finishing a great finish from across or something. You just can't do that. Yes, if he comes on in a game where we've got momentum and he comes on and is your wild card, brilliant. But if you need someone to, I don't know, to kind of move the back four around or come into a difficult game situation, he hasn't quite got it yet.
It's almost like back in the day, Chicharito for United, loved him, and he would come on the field and he'd change games with his impact. But when we started him, it'd be like, it's just not the same. And I think these players have that. I think he's got a long career ahead of him, but I think at the moment the hype's too much around him, far too much hype around him.
Hey, he's better than Rasmus.
Yeah,
mate,
I want to get a word on Man U in Chelsea in just a second.
No need for
that. One last thing on Villa, Rich. Top 4 still a possibility. Are you confident of getting top 4, top 5? It's looking like fifth's going to get Champions League. It looks like.
Well, a lot of it will be down to how Villa do tomorrow night in terms of this 5th spot as well. Obviously, we've got Celtic tomorrow. We need to beat Celtic.
Come on, Villa.
I think there's 5 results that if one of them goes Villa's way, then they get in that top 8, which is massive for us, because it takes away another 2 games that we can't really do with at the minute. But yeah, I mean, look, I think with Villa fans, we're hoping at the minute, we're clutching on the fact that we're still in touch. We've gone through these fixtures and there's so many teams that have got to play each other. I think the problem is we're waiting for us to get to a consistent level of form, like 3, 4, 5 wins in a row, and it's just not happening. So for me to say I'm confident that we'll finish in the top 4 or 5, I'd have to say no right now, because we're still waiting for this kind of form to kick in, and we're too inconsistent. We're not just inconsistent game to game, we're inconsistent within the actual game itself. For 10 minutes, Morgan Rogers looks like he's the world's best, and then for another 20 minutes, he looks like he can't kick a ball. So that's the problem with Villa at the minute. So I'll be happy with, quarter final. I'll be amazingly buzzing if we got quarterfinals of the Champions League and 6th in the table. I'll be absolutely buzzing with that. Absolutely
But
buzzing.
top 5 with Disasi and Felix, yeah?
I'd love João Felix. I'd love him, but I just can't see that happening.
Let's. I know you might not have much battery left in your phone, Dan, so we'll come to you with regards to Man United. Lots of fun.
Won't let me go in there and charge it, will they? These bloody Chelsea hotels. Ridiculous.
Mate, you've made a new signing today. 30-odd million quid. Should be happy.
Yeah. The deal's been agreed.
Another fullback.
Is it
another? We haven't got any.
You haven't got any, yeah. What's Luke Shaw doing these days?
What happened to Malacia, mate? You know, that generational talent.
Where's Luke Shaw?
Luke Shaw, he's still at Molly Mays recording TikToks.
You got Fulham fans frustrated with the fact that you went there and won with the deflected goal. I'll be honest, I didn't catch all of the game. Did you deserve it? Are you happy with the win? Of course you must be. But does it change anything for Man United? The Man United still in this situation where 1 week they could be great, next week they could be shit. Like, where were you at, like, with them at the moment?
To coin the great Gattuso, sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit, and that is us. I was buzzing with the result because I was expecting us to get turned over there. You know, Fulham have had a really good season this season. And you know something? There's a couple of things from that I take away. The first thing is Martinez. He's not going to get this lucky for the rest of the season. He nearly had a red. That was red card-esque the way he went into Traore again. And like, I get
that 2-footer off the floor, doesn't he? He loves that 2-footed line.
Yeah. Honestly, and I love people go, oh, you know, South Americans, that's how they. No, it's ridiculous. It's going to cause injury. And the funny thing was, he nearly got injured himself because he went too early. Traore hit his foot. C'est la vie. But the other thing that is really winding me up is these bloody journalists are still asking the same question every bloody week.
I mean, Rashford.
No Rashford today. You think no Rashford? Big surprise. I'm astounded by it. I can't, honestly, I would absolutely love it if we got rid of him tomorrow. Then we wouldn't have to talk about him again. Look, United are this team at the moment. We all know this. We've won last week. We'll probably go and we've got Palace at home next. We'll probably lose. Simple as that. It's just the way that we're set up. Bringing in Dorgu, I'm really happy about that. I've actually been watching Dorgu for a bit. I have, you know, I love this type of player that can play, that's versatile, it can play anywhere across a pitch. And I think what it does is I think it really starts to put the focus on the fact that we can now start to move away from Malacia. We can move away from Luke Shaw. This kid's going to come in. And I want United fans to remember he isn't the finished product. We've overpaid for him. We all know that. But it does take that bit away. We're not relying on Luke Shaw anymore. So I want him to come in and get the rest of this season bedded in, enjoy his football, and move from there. I think the worst thing for me was you've got our manager coming out on national TV and saying after a spawny 1-0 result away at Fulham that the players are asking for the day off. Isn't that just everything that's wrong with Manchester United right there, by the way?
Really?
Yeah, he said, "Oh, the players have asked if they can have a day off because it's my birthday tomorrow." Honestly, get a grip, man. Get a grip. So, I'm by no means sat here with a cigar saying we're back. I did cheekily say that on a TikTok, and the amount of rival fans, because they only listen to the first 10 seconds, and they're like, "You idiot, they're not back." I'm like, chill, listen another 20 seconds, and you'll hear probably what I'm saying. So, look, we're not making
crazy, man. TikTok's a crazy world.
Oh, I love it. We're not making a late. Oh God, that's the lights going out. You can tell the meters going.
Are you in the car? I'm trying to figure out those double lights.
Literally, right. Hang on, let me just stop.
How long is your car, man? Oh, that's the backlights as well. Okay, I thought it was in a limo or something.
Yeah, sorry, I've been honestly stuck at work all day, and then it's been a mess. So that's where we are. I think the main thing, all I want from Manchester United is for us to go and win another game in the league and win two consecutive games for the first time this season. That's all I want. We can build and build. So, I think my message is United fans, don't expect this late charge to Champions League to Europe because it ain't happening. Let's just buckle down, enjoy the wins when they come, and assess the rest later.
Dan, can I ask you? I know you don't want to talk about Rashford, but what did you think about what Amarim said? Because surely that's one of the stupidest statements a manager has ever said in a club trying to sell a player, saying that he would rather play the coach or whatever, a 52-year-old coach. How does that get him sold? I'm curious.
Mate, has he been sold yet?
No.
Has he been sold? Teams know exactly what it is with Rashford. No team wants to take his wages on. Everyone knows his attitude's a problem. I actually think that was the greatest message to Rashford, because it was basically him saying, look, mate, if you're not gone in at the end of January, you're going to be doing nothing. And you know something? That's how it has to be, Wolfie. This guy has had so much of a hold on managers that have come and gone in this time since he's been there. He's outlasted the likes of Jose Mourinho. He outlasted Ollie. He outlasted Rangnick. He outlasted Ten Hag. There are still people out there that have this hype that this guy is a baller. He is not. He's got world-class ability, but he doesn't have the mentality for it. And that's what makes him a player. Sorry?
He ain't got that football IQ, has he?
He hasn't got the IQ. And Wolfie, you made a comment before, and I back you on this, brother. I really do. Rasmus, they've got to get rid of him. They have to. It's becoming apparent now. It's been the worst trial ever. Last season, I was happy to give him, his first season coming to the English game, and it is a hard leave to come in and do, but he looks abysmal. Him and Xerxes, I hate it. United.
Dan, is Rashford is Højlund worse than Jackson? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, but I've never stated that Højlund's getting 20 league goals. So I don't know about
standards you're comparing your striker to. Then stop.
In terms of Højlund, though, right? Because I see a lot of United fans say, "Oh, he gets no service. But when I've watched him, right? Okay, he doesn't get much service. His movement's non-existent. It's like he's bought the mannequin challenge back in 2025.
He's married to the centre backs. He's constantly linking his arm around the centre back, and I'm like,
them.
Yeah,
he's a wrestler. He's a wrestler.
It's not good enough. And the thing is, like I said, I hear United fans say, "Oh, Xerxes, come on, man," and he put a shift on. He's a striker. He's meant to score goals. He's got 3 in the league. What are we doing?
Xerxes not really a 9, though, is he? If you watch Xerxes at Bologna, he's more of a 10.
Yeah, but this is the other thing. We signed him as a striker, and in his first interview, he goes, "Well, I'm not really a striker. I'm more of a 9.5." And I was like, "Oh my!"
I think the other thing I noticed, Dan, you're watching more than I do, but I've spoken to him. My best mate's Man U fan, and I said to him, because he has that excuse of, "Oh, he doesn't get the service." So I've studied Rasmus while he's playing. I swear to God, the other teammates avoid passing to him at times, it feels like, when you're watching it from an outsider looking in. I think the stat at half-time, by the way, I watched that match, and that was 90 minutes I'll never get back.
Terrible game.
Yeah, he lost the ball 10 times in one half. Yeah, he's not getting the service. You know what I mean? It was appalling from him. Shocking.
The problem we've got is we're so reliant now on Diallo, and we'll end up destroying that kid like we did with Mainu last season, like we've done in the past. It's mad. But I tell you something I will say that I am really happy about, and me and Pete had a chat off air on 12th Man, and I was like, you know what, maybe it is time for Garnacho to go. But then I sat there after it and I had a real long hard think about this, and I was like, absolutely not. There was a comment made on Twitter today from someone, and I thought, they're so right. This is where Manchester United are. We're being held to ransom for Dorgu for 30 million, but yet we're having to get rid of Garnacho for 45, 50. This is where Man United are. We can't sell him. Chelsea were looking at. I mean, Charlie, I don't know about you. I don't think that's a real thing. I think that's his agent going.
Mate, there was a lot of noise about it, right? It felt like something was going to happen, and then really since sort of Friday onwards, it's gone really quiet, and there's been literally nothing on it. I don't know if something's brewing in the background, or we might get something on it in the last few days, but like it's gone very quiet, and I'm hoping, because I don't think Chelsea need him, and I think that might be dead in the water, but you just never know with Chelsea in a transfer window. And United will be desperate for cash as well.
Yeah, do you know something though? I think what's turned, Amarim doesn't want to get rid of him. You can see that Amarim has not
No,
played
don't wanna
Castro.
get rid of it. It would be a money transfer. Yeah.
Yeah, and not just that. I actually think you've got to look at the Manchester City game. He and Rashford were dropped. Rashford hasn't played properly, hasn't come back since that. Garnacho got his head down, understood where he'd gone wrong, and worked. And I think I would rather players that do that. I'd rather players that want that. And that's the difference between Garnacho leaving and Rashford leaving. And by the way, Manchester United can't let both of them go because we've let Anthony go. And I know Anthony was absolute pish. And I know that. But you can't let three attacking players go in the same transfer window without bringing them in. So it wouldn't surprise me if we keep him now. And I think that will quell that. I think it's someone he can work with. But honestly, I despair at the moment with Manchester United, as you all know, because day by day we just become even more hilarious with our decisions.
Do you think Rashford's actually going to go?
I do. I think. Do you know something? I said this. I think deadline day will be Rashford day.
But it will be what? You'll have to pay
No, it'll be
quite a lot of his wages, though.
Yeah.
Boys, I gotta jump off. I'll see you boys later. Sorry to trip.
My batteries are about to die.
No, it's okay.
But no. Just on that quickly. Keep Garnacho. Get rid of Rashford. I think you can do more things with Garnacho than you can with Rashford. His time's done. Get him off the wage bill as best we can and move on. But Pete, honestly, just want to say apologise to you and your viewers. I've just been so snowed with work today. Normally I'm fine. I'm home, but unfortunately, as Manchester United know, you can't coach idiots, and that's what I've been stuck with at work today. So I really do apologise, and I hope you're back on soon, mate.
No worries, mate. Top man. Just to finish off for us, obviously Chelsea got beat at the weekend. Not the worst thing in the world, but
no, it's pretty bad.
No, not in the grand scheme of things, because you're still within the top four race. You're still within those things. Top man, Dan. See you later. You're still within the top four race. Obviously, Man City looked strong, although you took the lead, but in the grand scheme of things, what fixtures you got next? You worried about the fact that you lost?
We got West Ham Monday, then it's Brighton away, and then we got back-to-back visits to Brighton, first in the FA Cup and then in the league. And then I think we've got Villa away as well after that. So I think we've got Monday, West Ham's our last home game for a few weeks. So yeah, we've got winnable games coming up. I'd say the only positive for us at the moment is that despite one win in 7, we're still somehow only 1 point behind the top 4. So yes, we are still in contention, but we're not playing particularly well at the moment. And I thought Saturday was a real big disappointment. It was a massive opportunity missed. You go 1 up early doors. You have an opportunity to go 2 up. I mean, Palmer should really take that on himself, but then the pass to Jackson is not particularly good. But then from that point onwards, we just stopped playing. And we just allowed Man City to control the game, not learning from mistakes. That ball over the top was on so many times. We had 2 or 3 warnings and we just ignored it. And then eventually they scored. And then obviously Robert Sanchez does what Robert Sanchez does, and the game's the game's gone. But I mean, I think I described it after the game as our worst performance of the season. I thought it was a cowardly performance. The mentality is just not there at the moment with this team. And I think particularly in a game like that, that's where a lack of experience and a lack of leadership really showed, because we played a high line, a much higher line than I've seen us play at all this season. And if you had an experience heading that back line, the first time that ball over the top gets played, right, we're dropping it 5 yards. No one in the back line realised that. And then there's no message from the side either. Guys, this ball keeps coming over the top. They keep getting in behind. Let's drop. Why wasn't that there? You know, a team with an elite level mentality would have killed that game off in the first half hour. You've got Kusanov, 20 years old. He's had a couple of training sessions, doesn't speak English. He's made a mistake and he's booked in the first 5 minutes. Why are you not giving him hell? Like, we should have smelt blood. But that's a mentality thing. We don't have the mentality to do that right now. And so that's one thing that the weekend really exposed, is our lack of leadership, lack of elite level mentality. And it really showed what we're missing in terms of a number 9. We're missing a top level centre back, and don't get me started on the messing goal. So like yes, positives. We're only a point off the top four, which, given our run of form, is quite incredible. But there's a lot of things that I am concerned about, and this final 5 or 6 days of the window, or whatever it is, what we do or don't do will tell me a lot about how seriously the club want to play Champions League football next season.
Yeah. My last point on Chelsea before I want to get your quick thoughts on Newcastle before we wrap. My last thought on Chelsea is, why are you targeting attacking players when you desperately, clearly need a goalkeeper?
Well, the thing with that is that they believe what they've got right now is good enough. So that's a bit of a worry in itself. Look, I don't know how good Philip Jorgensen is, really. We've seen very little of him. He's had a couple of Premier League games and he's been the Conference League keeper. But I'm sort of at this point, on Monday night, if Sanchez is in goal, then I don't really know what to think. In terms of what we need a striker. We know that. Whether Matthias Tell's going to come, I don't know. But we need an out-and-out number 9 that's going to come in and is ready to make an impact straight away. We don't need another project player. We don't need another player that, is not really moving the needle when he comes in. Like, Matthias Tell is better than nothing. Don't get me wrong, if we get that deal done. But a 19-year-old who's not played very much football for the last couple of years, that doesn't say to me, that's going to solve our problems. It's not. You're just adding another inexperienced body to the mix, which is what we don't need. So I'm worried. Are we going to get a striker? I don't think we will. I think at best we'll get Matthias Tell. And that's not moving the needle enough. We need cover in midfield. Why we've not recalled Igor from Southampton, I've got absolutely no idea. There's just a few baffling decisions going on at the moment. And there's quite a lot of concerns. The last 5 days could alleviate some of those concerns, or it could further emphasize them. So it's a really massive 5 days for us in the context of the season. Because I honestly feel if we don't do anything, or we just bring in Tell or whatever, we won't finish top 4.
Yeah, and it's going to be an interesting one. And look, we're fighting alongside you for that top 4 at this moment in time. I won't talk too much on the win against Southampton. Was relatively routine after we got the equaliser. They scored obviously the opening goal, but great for us to hit back, and we're really pleased with the fact that we hit back with a win after that disappointing defeat against Bournemouth. We've got Fulham coming up at the weekend. From our perspective, we're right where we want to be, and do you genuinely see Newcastle being in that race all the way up to the end of the season?
Yeah, 100%. I think a big thing, as I'm sure you'll know, is that if you can keep the majority of your first 11 fit, then I think you'll be all right. I still worry an injury to Isak, big problem. An injury to Anthony Gordon, big problem. And I think it's same to similar seasons that have gone by. The first 11, very good. The drop-off to the bench is significant. Like, if you had to go an extended period without one of your big players, and of course, any team would struggle without their big players. But I think particularly for Newcastle, where the quality of the replacements, there is such a big drop-off in quality, you could have issues there. But if that first 11 stays fit for the majority of the season, and Hal does decent rotation, you're playing once a week, I think you're going to be absolutely right up there in the mix. And when you've got players like Alexander Isak, you're actually pretty sound defensively, generally speaking. But for me, that's going to come down to whether you can keep them, whether you can keep your best players fit. That's the big question mark.
We might not get, hopefully we'll get a showing, but we might not get a showing between now and the second leg of the Carabao Cup.
When's that?
So it's a week on Wednesday, so a week tomorrow.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So with that, we're 2-0 up. Obviously, Arsenal have had a little bit of upturning form. They're picking up results. Do you see any change? Do you see any surprises going into that second leg? Are you thinking Newcastle going to get to the final?
I'd be stuck. I'd be very, very surprised if you got turned over at your. If it was the Emirates, if it was at the Emirates, I'd maybe give them a little bit more of a chance. But at St James's Park, under the lights, place will be bouncing. You've got a good record against Arsenal at St James's Park. Arsenal don't do particularly well there, certainly in recent times. With a 2-goal advantage, I'd be very surprised if you lost that game by 3 goals. I'd be stunned. You're going to at least score 1, in which case they've got to score 3 absolute minimum. I just don't see that happening. If you were to go out that would have to go down as a huge disappointment.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be really interesting. We had a look before you came on, Charlie, about some of the fixtures over the course of February into March, and we're literally all playing each other.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to be having big discussions with regards to the table chopping and changing over the next few weeks. But look, we'll wrap there for tonight. Great show. Make sure you go and follow everyone. Make sure you go and follow Charlie at Blue Brothers CFC. Make sure you follow Together BHA. Adam was on early with us. Rich at the Villa Park Pod. We've got Wolfie at Forest Fans TV, and you've got United First on TikTok following Dan from Man United. Brilliant guest. Thank you to everyone in the chat. Absolutely spot on with your questions. Sorry if we didn't get to them all, but the chat was flowing so well, we didn't get an opportunity to do. All I ask you on your way out is click the like. I think we've got just over 100, but let's get 200 plus. We had nearly 300 people watching live over the course of this show. So just hit that like on the way out, and it means the world to us. But we're going to be back for some more top table talk when hopefully Newcastle win again. And let's see what Forest do this time with Brighton coming to town. That'll be interesting next week. Adam and Wolfie after their match at the weekend. But let's wait and see. Right, we're off, people.